Okay, so we're going to be looking at skill number 3, multiplying surds. And if you didn't check out the previous video, there's been some things that have built on this initial surd law that we've got here. We're just going to be going a little bit further with it. And really the best thing for me to do is just to show you some examples. So using this law that we've got at the top here, the square root of 3 times the square root of 5, we can just write as the square root of 3 times 5, which is 15. And we know that 3 multiplied by root 7, we don't write that multiply symbol. So we're just going to write it as 3 root 7, and there's no simplifying that can be done here. If we do root 5 times 4, we wouldn't write root 5, 4, it just looks weird. We always want to finish off with the surd, so we would do the 4 first, and then the root 5. Now there's a few different ways we could do this one. I'm probably going to do the most obvious, which is to take the 2 and the 8 and use this law here. We'll multiply the 2 and the 8 together, and 2 times 8 is 16, and the square root of 16 is 4. We can do the square root of 7 times the square root of 7. Now, you actually already know that the answer to this must be 7, because it's saying what number, when you multiply it by itself, gives you 7. But if we do it the long way, we can do the square root of multiplying the two numbers together. 7 times 7 is 49, and the square root of 49 is 7. Now these ones are a bit trickier. Let's just try and remember what this means. This means 2 multiplied by the square root of 5 multiplied by 3 multiplied by the square root of 2. So if I was going to do this in a slightly different order, I would probably do it in this order. Because remember, you can do multiplication in any order that you like. So I would do the 2 times the 3, which is this beginning bit, is going to give me 6. And then I've got the square root of 2 times the square root of 5. Now you can only do with the whole numbers together, and then the root numbers, the surds, separately. And the square root of 2 times the square root of 5 is the square root of 2 times 5, which is 10. So it's 6 root 10. I'll show you that on here. I'm going to do 2 root 5 multiplied by 3 root 2. And you get 6 root 10. So this one here is telling us we deal with the whole numbers and surds separately. The whole numbers are the integers, so deal with the integers and surds separately. So we can see another example of this here. I'm going to do with the integers first of all. I'm going to do the 4 times the 2, which is the 8, and then I've got the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. Now the long way is that that would be the square root of 9, but we know that the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is just 3. But I'm going to stick with the long way, and 8 times by, this is 8 multiplied by the square root of 9, which is 3, and 8 times 3 is 24. So I'll show you that 4 root 3 times, you've got to make sure you press this arrow button to get outside of the surd rather than inside the surd, multiplied by 2 root 3, and we do get the answer 24 for that question. Now this last one that we've got here, I've got root 32 times 5 root 2, and I'm going to probably show you two ways of doing this. I'm going to start off by just multiplying the integers, just going to be a 5, that's the only thing we've got. We've got root 32 and root 2. Well, 32 times 2 is 64, and the square root of 64 is 8, so 5 times 8 is 40. But if you wanted to try this in a different way, this one needs simplifying. It can actually be simplified, and it might make your calculation a bit easier, it might not. 32 is actually the same as the square root of 16 times the square root of 2, or 4 root 2 times 5 root 2. 4 times 5 is 20, and root 2 times root 2 is 2, so you still end up with that same bit there. Needs simplified, that doesn't make any sense. Needs simplifying. So if you want to simplify things first, it can sometimes make your calculations easier. You should now have a go at doing these questions. So pause the video here and have a go and see if you can simplify and calculate these. Okay, root 5 times root 7 is just going to be the square root of those bits multiplied together because they are both in root signs. This one is not going to be root 55 because this is a whole number and this is the surd. So it's just going to be written as 5 root 11. We always start with the non-surd, so it's going to be 13 root 7 for this one. We can do the 2 times the 18, which is 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. We could either multiply the 11 times 11 to get 121, and then the square root of 121 is 11, or we could just say that the square root of 11 times the square root of 11 is 11. Because of that kind of general rule, the square root of something times by the square root of that something must be that something. Okay, so this one we're going to say we can do it in whatever order. So I'm going to do the 4 times the 3, which is the 12. The root 3 times the root 5 is the root 15. So we have 12 root 15. And I'll show you that one in the calculator. 4 root 3, make sure you come out of the surd, multiplied by 3 root 5, and you get 12 root 15. Now, if something is squaring, that just means it's multiplying by itself. So it's 3 root 7 times 3 root 7. The 3 times the 3 is the 9. The root 7 times the root 7. Well, using this law that we've got down here, we just know that that's going to be multiplying by a 7. So it's 63. This one, I'm going to do it the simplifying way first of all. So if I simplify this one first of all, 50 is 25 times 2. And the square root of 25 times the square root of 2 times 8 root 2. That's 5 root 2 times 8 root 2. The 5 times the 8 is a 40. The root 2 times the root 2 is 2. So the answer is going to be 80. I'll do it the other way as well. So it is going to be the 8, and then we've got the root 50 times 2, which is 100. The square root of 100 is 10. And 8 times 10 is 80. In this case, I actually think this one is probably a bit preferable, but you can use this and you're probably going to want to do lots of practice of the simplifying. So in the next video, we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting surds, and it kind of calls back to some things that you will have learnt with algebra before this. Found this video helpful? Then why not drop it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. If you'd like the next video in the playlist, you can click here to be taken straight to it. And as always, wishing you the very best for all your studies.